Now, for anyone who's worked in or around Parliament House, you'd know what a big day today is. Budget day is like Christmas for nerds. I can say that because I am a hopeless nerd. The lead up to the budget is a really hectic period in which staffers and Treasury bureaucrats are literally adding up every figure right up until the finished version goes to Cabinet. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. But at the end of the day, there are always going to be some winners and losers in the budget. My next guest is someone with plenty of experience of how this works. He was the chief economist for Tony Abbott in the Prime Minister's role. His name is Andrew Stone. He's also the author of an outstanding book around economic policy called Restoring Hope. I haven't had a chance to compliment him on that yet. So, Andrew, welcome to the program and congratulations on an excellent book. Now,
Thanks,
currently most of the press gallery will be in budget lockup. Please take us through what it's like being in that lockup process.
Well, as you say, if for the sort of people who are passionate about economics and budget matters, it's a very simultaneously high pressure but exciting time, because the people in the lockup are being exposed to what the final Treasury documents and Treasury figures will be around typically about 6 hours before they will be presented to the general public at 7:30 this evening. And so it's a very high pressure position, both for the journalists who are having to go through all those documents and try to pick out what they think are the key stories, but even more so for the staffers, particularly for the opposition parties, who are having to try to feed through the figures, assess what they think is plausible, if there are any weaknesses in the data, or what they think of the strategy that the government is bringing to the budget. So it's certainly an exciting or interesting time. That said, having been through it a few times and also having previously worked in the Commonwealth Treasury and observing the budget process, I often think these days that we spend a bit too much time turning the whole budget process into this gigantic bit of theatre. Perhaps we get a bit too excited about the budget process, very important as it is for the overall economic management of the nation.
Andrew, the big question for tonight has got to be, how do you balance giving people a hand with out-of-control cost of living pressures without feeding the beast that is inflation, because that just makes the cost of living worse? Do you think Jim Chalmers can do that? Is he up to that task?
Well, again, we'll have to wait and see. Quite a number of things have already been flagged ahead of budget day. That seems to be the common approach nowadays. And we'll have to wait and see about the details. In a sense, it is, inflation is extremely high, and everybody is fully aware of that, and that is a real problem for households. And so, there's no surprise that the Labor Party will be trying to do things to address particular constituent groups that are under pressure there. There's only so much that a government can do, though, in terms of trying to relieve that pressure directly. So my hope actually is that the Treasurer will not try to press this too far, because the key to resolving this issue is to make the economic reforms that encourage jobs growth, that encourage, in particular, wages growth. At the moment, we have a situation where inflation's running at 7%, but wages growth is only running at about 3.5% or 4%. So households over the past year have become, in real terms, in terms of what they can actually purchase with their salaries, have become about 3.5% worse off. And that's a big hit to household budgets. And you see it showing through already in things like retail sales data. The actual volume of things that people have been buying has been falling for the past 2 quarters. So it is a big challenge for this government. At the moment, it's basking in this tremendous windfall that it's received primarily because of record high commodity prices and also this massive boost to the budget temporarily from massive migration. And this is the 3rd year in a row, actually, in which we will have had an unexpected boost to just the budget year relative to what Treasury was forecasting of $80 billion in a single year. For the last 3 years, we've got positive surprises of $80 billion. So the temptation for the Treasurer will be to say, let's splurge a bit more, let's hand out a whole lot of money here, trying to protect people from that inflation. Whereas it's actually tremendously important that he doesn't do that, because structurally, our budget is in actually a quite weak position, and it's just as easily possible to get $80 billion negative surprises. In fact, just for people who are budget nerds, there are some eerie echoes, I think, of the situation that Wayne Swan found himself in delivering his first regular sort of budget in the last Labor government. In that at that time, it looked like the budget was in strong surplus and everything was going well. And then everything turned around and there was a massive hit to the budget. And the Labor Party struggled every year after that because its budget forecasts were blown out of the water. And Mr Chalmers should remember that the same thing could very easily, in fact, there are developments in the world economy which make it very worrying, actually, that similar sorts of things could happen. I'm not saying they will, but there are serious risks that these positive surprises we've been getting for the last 3 years could very quickly turn into ugly negative surprises.
Well, hopefully the nerds like you and me will see a little bit of an appetite in future for the structural reform necessary to get it into a stronger position. Finally, what impact do you think last week's interest rate rise would have had in those final days of preparation before the budget went to Cabinet?
It will have been an unwelcome thing for the Treasurer, particularly unwelcome from a political presentational point of view. It won't, I would think, have had too large an impact on the budget numbers, though it may well have contributed, to the extent that as Treasury nails down the very final figures, that they might have been teetering between, will we forecast growth of 2% or 1.75% or something. It will, at the margin, have caused them to lower their forecasts and to make the budget outlook be a little bit worse than they would otherwise have said. Happily, a single quarter point raise like that doesn't make that big a difference to the numbers. The real problem is that we've had a whole string of these large rate rises, and the challenge for Treasury will be trying to get the numbers right. Having missed so spectacularly for 3 years in a row, the challenge for Treasury will be to get the numbers right, factoring in how big an impact all those big rate rises over the past year are going to have going forward over the next year and the year after that.
Andrew Stone, thank you very much for your time and your insights this evening.